This demonstration is on the TEISS QAQC functionality, and I'm going to show you that by entering a source. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up Input View, and this is going to be a non-road source that I'm going to enter into my TEISS project. So I'm going to click on Non-Road Sources, and then I'm going to click on Non-Road Locations and add a location. And I'm going to pretend that I'm in Coconino County and I'm not in a reservation. But you guys don't do this. You add sources on your reservation, not in a county. But I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to click Add. And then I'm going to do Coconino County. So first I'm going to select the state as Arizona. And the county as Coconino. And click Select. And click OK. So the process that I'm going to enter is a lawnmower process, and keep in mind that none of this data is actual data. It's all just fake data that I'm showing for demonstration purposes only. So I'm going to click on Non-Road Processes and click Add. And I'm going to write an emission process description of lawnmowers. And I'm going to find the source classification code for lawnmowers. And let's see if I have that. Lawn and garden equipment. See if I can find it. The SEC that I'm going to use for this is this lawnmower SEC for commercial lawnmowers. And I'm going to click OK to add that SEC in. And the emission type code, this is going to be exhaust emissions. So I'm going to select X for exhaust. And remember to click OK here instead of clicking Close, because if you click on this Close button, none of your data is saved. So make sure you click OK when you're entering your data. Now we need to add the reporting period. So we click on Non-Point Reporting Period and we click Add. And notice by default this comes up with the reporting period type code of annual, which is what we want. And I'm going to enter the actual throughput value. And this is just pretending that I know this information. So I'm just going to enter a value of 480, and that's going to be in units of horsepower hours, which is right here. And I click Select, and the calculation material code is going to be vehicle. So I'm going to select vehicle, and the type code is going to be used, so input. And then I'll click OK. And now I'll add my emissions, which is just a made-up number. I'm going to enter it as VOC emissions. And I'm going to enter it as 280 tons of VOC. So for this record, I want to enter some QC data. So I'm going to click down and go into the QC section. Okay, so now we're going to enter some QC data for this emissions. So what I want to do is scroll down on the screen until I get to my QC area. And here I want to enter who I collected the data from. So if I click on the drop-down arrow now, there's nothing in here yet because I haven't entered anyone into the list of who I'm getting my data from. So to add someone to the list, I have to click on these three little dots here, and then I can add a person to this list. So it looks pretty blank. First you have to click Add, and then you can type in who you collected that data from. And in this example, I'd like to show entering as much data as possible. So I'm going to enter the person's name, which is Misty Fairview. And then I'm going to enter her occupation, that she's the general manager of the lawn. And I'm going to pretend that I have her phone number too. I'm going to enter that in. And it's really good to enter as much data as you can in this area, because say that you quit your job or you were promoted or someone else is taking over your emissions inventory for the next update of your emissions inventory, and they need to know who to contact. at the store to get this information. So if you can put in as much data as possible here, it's best. And think of things like Misty Fairview quits her job, and so then you don't have anything but her name, so that's not very beneficial. So having she's the general manager of the lawn and garden store, and the phone number helps in terms of who is updating your emissions inventory and where they can get that information. Also, make sure you check your spelling carefully right here, because once you click OK, there's no way to go back and change your spelling without deleting that person and then re-adding them. So make sure you do that, and then click on the OK button. And then click OK again on this screen. And nothing seems to happen, but when we click on this down arrow button, now we can see that Misty Fairview is in my list. So I'll click on that, and she is now in this data collected area for the VOC emissions. Data collected by, if I click on that, Misty Fairview is not going to be in there because that's specific for data collected from. So there is me, because I previously entered that into the 3-dot area. If you wanted to add someone else, we could add someone else by clicking add, and we'll add Melinda. And now we have the choices here, and we'll click OK, and you'll see in the drop down we can see both of the choices. So I'll go ahead and say I collected that data, and then the date collected, it defaults to today, so you can just click today and that comes in. So I'm going to click OK to save this, and now that has saved. Now what I'd like to show is, say that instead of commercial lawnmowers, these were actually residential lawnmowers, and I accidentally entered the wrong non-road process. So I need to change that. So I'm going to click on non-road processes, and then I'm going to click the edit button. And this time I'm actually going to use the edit button to edit data instead of just using it as a view button. So I'll click edit, and I want to change my SCC to the residential SCC. So we'll click on the 3 buttons to look at the SCC list. And I know that the residential lawnmower SCC is 1 up from my commercial lawnmower. So I'm going to click OK to accept the residential lawnmowers. And you'll notice here that in the data entry area that some of this information is getting filled in by default by TEISS. So cells that are gray are the ones that TEISS fills in by default. I'd like to take a look at the report and see what that looks like for the QAQC. So we'll go ahead and click on report and see what happens. So right now, you'll see that nothing is changed. And the reason why nothing is changed in this report is because I didn't click the OK button yet. So it's not reporting any changes to the data. So I'm going to close this report, and then I'm going to click the OK button. And now I'm going to go back into that screen by clicking on edit. And I'm going to take a look at the report and see if there's anything different. So now you can see that the source classification code was changed, and it lists the old value and the new value. And you'll notice if you had set up multiple users, like you're logging in as administrator and someone else, one of your coworkers, you set up his own account for, you could tell who did the changing of the data. And it tells you exactly what time that data was changed as well. So that's very beneficial if you have multiple users to your TEISS project and you want to keep track of who changes what. And that's it for QAQC and TEISS.